Hi, everyone. I'm Shayna J with One Heart Mission. And I thought today I would give you the mission statement for One Heart Mission, which is to have victory for the earth and humanity through the education of peace, sustainability, consciousness, and sacred living. So I have not said that before, and it was just came to my heart today that I would like to share that with you. And so we now have the this channel called Urban Wisdom, and a podcast channel called Urban Wisdom, and we have been veering a little bit off of the subject of mastering the moment, but everything does turn around to being in the moment. So we included other subjects, and today, I have with me Dr. Kyre Adept, which I'm so excited to have her back again. Hi, Kyre.
Glad to be here.
So fabulous to have you come. And we were talking, in fact, since our first interview, we have been talking regularly because we have been doing some work for humanity that I won't go into detail about. We may reveal that at another time, but we Kier does this beautiful work called Geotran, plus her own psychic abilities and divination abilities. And today last week we were talking about how people get so wrapped up in the outer world and start to feel drained. And they're never sure what's draining them. So they try to fix it, with caffeine or sugar or food or different things, sunlight. Hopefully you'll use sunlight. Um, but we went deeper than that. And so we started talking about the 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 way we're affected and what we can do about it. So would you like to add to that, Kier?
I can talk about this for hours. Let's see if we can keep it down to a manageable bit. Otherwise, people will be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Energy where their own psychic energy is not coming in.
right.
So, what we were talking about last week, as you know, was this concept of psychic energy not as an astral plane phenomenon, yeah, not being psychic, um, but rather the electromagnetic energy that every single cell requires in order to have victory. That's exactly how it was described by my teacher. In order to live a life of victory,
Yeah,
you have this electromagnetic energy.
yeah,
And the electro part is the divine masculine part, that's the Holy Ghost. And the magnetic part is the divine feminine part, which is the Holy Spirit. So, we naturally acquire or let go of this psychic energy just in our daily patterns. Um, for example, if you want to build up that energy inside yourself, and thereby increase, for example, your direction, your focus, and all those other good things, then you can have expand your consciousness, which is of course what you do. Lofty thinking, live a life of high moral standards, strive towards perfection, that is taking steps in the direction not of not of a rigid perfection, but of a homeostatic perfection, so that all the parts are moving correctly together in the correct direction for you. Then there is service for the common good, and also, and what's most easy and fun for everyone is work or laboring, but not drudgery. So, not, oh, I'm exhausted even at the thought of going and working 40 hours a week for somebody else, which indeed I myself have not done for 30 years now, but more sort of, oh, I get to make another shawl. Oh, I get to bake another loaf of bread.
yeah,
Oh, I get to, and it's the things that you do that you enjoy doing so that the labor itself has an enjoyable rhythm. It's
yeah.
a my
I, I'll
car
just
battery.
I'll just interject right here. In working with my clients, almost every one of them wanted to know, what their purpose was once we got down the road a little bit. And I asked them, well, what are you doing now? And they would tell me. And then they would say, I said, well, how do you feel about that? Oh, well, it's, it's boring. And I'd really rather be doing something where I'm getting acknowledged more, or where I'm contributing more, or where I'm more creative. And I go, so what would it be like if you just went in there and realized that you get to do that job and you get to do it the way it empowers you? That's you bringing your energy of all of who you are into that space, into that work, and into the production of what you're doing. And as I'm explaining it, their eyes lit up and they had never thought of it that way. And so it shifted. And so then I could say, okay, so then once you're there in the joy of you get to work doing what you're doing, something else will show up in a very magical way that you don't even have to draw in, because your heart is beaming the way you like to work. And so the proper work comes to you.
Yes, and Edwina actually talks about this. One of my favorite inspirational books is by Edwina Gaines, and it's called The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And as I think I've told you,
Yeah.
Shayna, the way I found this book was very magical, and therefore I really paid attention. Well, I happened to be reading the last section again a couple of nights ago, because people often ask her, well, how do I even find my purpose? Well, do something you enjoy, and do it because you love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about, oh, I'm going to, create this career out of nothing. No, it's more the example in her life was she made the coffee and swept the floors at her local Unity church. And then one day the minister, and she came to enjoy it. And one day the minister called up and said, I've got laryngitis. Can you take the service this morning?
Oh my gosh. And
You
she
know?
became a speaker.
Yeah. And she was doing what she enjoyed, you know?
That's a perfect example of what I was talking about.
Yeah. And
Perfect example. Yeah.
how I found Geotran was because I was doing something I did not enjoy. And I had that moment of revelation that said, hey, if I'm only enjoying 10% of this, I'll bet there's something out there that I could be enjoying 90%. And I'll
Ooh,
find
that
it.
yeah, see, that's another way. That's a total realization of what your knowing is. You have to say what it is before you can move to the next step. So if you say, well, this is not, oh, I have an example of this too. So a couple of years ago, I was living in this place that it was just sweet. But I felt it was very overpriced. And the landlord didn't do a whole lot to help me out fixing the many, many bugs that were in all the closets every day and eating up my clothes and stuff. So one day I got it. I was like, I do not like living here. This is kind of substandard living for me. It's sweet, but the very next day I had a lunch scheduled with an old high school friend who I hadn't seen in a long time. And all of a sudden, we're talking, catching up. All of a sudden, she says to me, I could live with you. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And then
Mhm.
she tells me this story, and how she's been thinking about living with someone so that because she has this big house. And I said, well, let's go check it out. What the heck? So she's like, now? I said, yeah, why not? She lived literally right around the corner, which was only 1 mile from where I was living. And she said, here, you can have this whole area, 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And I go, well, what are you thinking about for rent? She's told me half of what I was paying.
There you go.
And I said, when can I move in? You know,
Yeah.
that's how it's getting the clarity either way. But if you're not in your heart, in the love of if something doesn't work for you and you need to write it out, you don't need to quit. You just need to write it out. Begin to embrace the love inside of you and bring your creativity to it. And then the next thing, because everything resonates to where you
Hmm.
are in the
Hmm.
moment.
Hmm. Absolutely. So getting back to this topic of psychic energy, when you I'm going to speak in a moment about more about what will bring more psychic energy and what takes it away. But let me just stop for a moment and say, here's the problem when you run out of psychic energy.
Great.
You lose direction. You lose passion.
Yeah.
You can't sleep properly. You don't eat foods that are nutritious for you. It's like it's absolutely like my car battery, which coincidentally gave out the morning when in the evening we had the class that talked about all of this psychic energies. Wow. Okay, I got the example here, guys. All right. It really is, it's your personal motor is just not going to start
Yeah.
because there is no energy. It's your battery has gone kaput. And it's actually a really, really close analogy because typically what makes your battery go kaput, there are two main things. One is, uh, I'm talking about your car battery here. One is that you have some sort of leak. Yeah, you kind of left the lights on, or some part of the car system is drawing energy without you knowing it.
Yeah.
Yes. So in human terms, that's there's somebody around you sapping your energy,
Yeah.
of course. And the other is that your battery is not holding the charge, right? So that's a possibility. So there's a kind of weakness in your system. But what happens more than anything else is that, especially because I have a hybrid, if I don't take that out on the road and
Use it.
regenerate that energy, then the battery will just give out eventually.
Right. Yeah.
So I went and had my battery replaced, and it's fine. However, so when I'm working with people and they say to me, "Oh my God, I'm always exhausted, yet I can't sleep. Somehow I can't eat. Somehow I don't feel like eating, or what I do eat doesn't seem to, do anything for me." Now, the first place I go is to say, well, is there anything that is sapping that psychic energy? Because without that psychic energy, you are not going to be able to hear what God has for you, or what your guides are trying to tell you, or your ability to read the field, or however you put it to you, to get that innate knowing of what direction you're supposed to be going in,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're going to do when you get there. So, so there are things that can build that back up, and one of them is just doing things that you enjoy doing. Which could include having a walk every day, could include solitude, could include music, could include laughter. Laughter is a total demon buster. I'll tell you, the God of this world can't stand being laughed at. It's great. Sometimes I look at these demons and I go, "You got to be kidding me!" Like, you're not taking it seriously. No, I'm not.
Oh, right. The other thing that I was reminded of that I absolutely love is singing to yourself.
Exactly.
Singing a
Exactly.
song or your favorite song. Now, I'm not a singer and I don't sing out in public, but I sing to myself because I love singing, and it does something to my whole body. Now, vibrationally,
Mm,
energetically, when you sing to yourself or speak to yourself, your own body takes in that message. Speaking to yourself so much better, it raises your vibration. Because like if you say to yourself, "Oh sweetheart, I'm so sorry you just stubbed your toe. Here, let me fix it for you, let me kiss it for you." your your own voice, even when it's not kind, but it's still, it gives the vibration of connection to
yes.
your own sacred self.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in Geotran classes, for instance, and Dorothy used to do that. Dorothy's gone now these 5 years, but Dr. Cam does it too. When Dorothy wanted us to learn something or to hear something at the right level, she would put on music first to get the whole group to shift energetically to the place where we could learn the next thing.
What
Yes?
would she do? I missed it.
She put on music.
Oh, music. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, Geotran is all about sacred geometry.
Yeah.
And a lot of these songs that she particularly liked, mainly from the 50s, so swing music, things like that, were what she called time release melodies.
Oh, perfect phrase.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they were energetically shifting the whole room and everyone in it to this next place, to the next place, to the next place, to the next place.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling exhausted, and if what's happening is that your psychic energy has been depleted, that is a fantastic way of just pumping that back up again, like putting that battery on the trickle charger.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. I get it. In fact, I can think of 5 songs right now that are energy. What did you say? Timed
Time release melodies.
time release melodies. So let it be.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagined.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of my favorites is from the movie West Side Story,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called oh God, what is the name of it? Someday. Oh God, I think it's called Someday or Somewhere. It's like, oh no, it's called Something's Coming. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Something's coming. I don't know what it is, but it is gonna be great.
Yes.
Oh, I get chills just thinking of it. So there are songs like that. That one of the ones I wake up to almost every morning is Billy Joel's song, "This Is My Life." And I'm like, oh God, or Frank Sinatra's "My Way." I mean, these songs, I could go on. They're starting to come in. There's so many of them. And some people would tell me that they would wake up with music in their atmosphere. I'm like, well, that's probably your angels giving you a message. What are the words? But also the melody.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
sing that melody to yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I woke up the other morning with "Unwritten" by Natasha Bedingfield, and I could just hear it in my mind. So of course I went to YouTube. Yay, YouTube! We love YouTube. And
Right.
I actually saw the music video, which I had never seen before.
Oh, wow.
I'd heard the song because it had come up in geotran classes.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
this video itself was a knockout.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the great ways. You were starting to name some other ways, but I really hit on the music one because I'm a child of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so that was all I had for my happiness.
Okay, the very two very highest sources of psychic energy:
Uh-huh.
devotion to a great one with absolute trust. This is really your God connection, however you
Yeah.
speak that, define that to you.
Yeah.
And the other is trust and dedication to the hierarchy or law. Now, whenever Dorothy talks about the law, yeah, she's she is actually a great believer in following the rules, which is totally fine, absolutely. But she's not really talking about human law. She's talking about the 12 universal laws, the law of cycles, the law of light, the law of return, the law of that sort of stuff. And secondly, whenever she talks about the law, she says that Mother God is the law, Father God is the word. Yeah. So this whole conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago within the geotrain community was all about the law in that sense. Mother God, the divine feminine, being the source
Yeah.
of psychic energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is actually a really, really good way of bolstering your own psychic energy is really look at the places where you're at. It, see, whenever I talk about the law in a human context, it gets a little confused. But if you can bear with me for a second, it's like if you think about the law as am I in alignment or not in alignment with the universal law, that takes it to a much higher level of understanding and
Yes.
therefore a bigger blast
Yeah.
of psychic energy. Yeah, rather than getting into a political argument without or something that really just relates to our human culture, especially here in the US. Now, you can also decrease your psychic energy in a number of ways, unfortunately, of which the most prominent ones are slander, gossip, malice, misery, which, and those are the two components of envy. So
Wow.
envy, coveting, craving, jealousy, bad idea.
Right.
And especially speaking the words of those, because then that brings it into the physical, the same way the music also brings the stuff we want into the physical.
Right.
But also treason against another person, place, or thing to which you naturally owe allegiance.
Oh, wow.
So I'll just leave you to
Woo.
the listener to work out what that might mean for you.
Wow, that's big.
So what we were looking at in this conference call, as a result of which I was talking to you about it last week, was asking, well, has your energy been sapped? Which it can easily be by a person, place, or thing. Now, what does this mean in the field? I want you to think for a second about that battery analogy. Okay. And one of the ways in which you can have a permanent problem with your car battery is that the terminals, is terminals the word I mean? The positive and the negative bitties get corroded, right? Well, you have
Jumper cables.
yeah, but not the cables, the battery itself, the
Oh, the
stick
batteries.
the battery itself.
Okay.
So I want you to see for a minute that you have a lot of neuroconnectors
Yes.
between you, your physical body, and your glorified body, right? And I'll get to that in a sec. And you also have even more multidimensional neuroconnectors between you and Mother God, right? I'm not saying you don't have any between you and Father God. That's just not what we're looking at this minute.
Right.
So um, those neuroconnectors are meant to, well, they can get corroded. They can get these crystalline formations on them if you don't have enough psychic energy to keep them clear. Yeah. So these neuroconnectors are meant to protect you from negative thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, and all the rest of it. But of course, if you will spend time with low energy people, with low frequency people, then what happens instead is you get this equivalent of corrosion on those neuroconnectors, and the energy goes to those persons, places, or things that are really operating with the God of this world, right? Because every part of the plan of God has been duplicated. Okay, so if we have faith as our operating system, the God of this world has an operating system of fear. Yeah, if patience is our backup operating system, the inverse is doubt. Yeah,
And worry.
obviously, like, and you can take any divine quality or
Yeah.
trait and say, oh, okay, this has got an inverted part. Really good example. Blessing, which is a divine principle, the inverted um, expression of it is luck.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Because luck is not sure and blessing is sure.
Oh, so there's certainty in it.
Yeah, so you can see that sometimes these reversals are quite subtle. Yeah. And,
Uh,
they, and they're going to present themselves as at least neutral,
yeah.
right? So when you spend too much time with individuals or in places or with groups that are not at the frequency or vibration that you want to be, and if you already have a little corrosion going with the psychic energy neuroconnectors, it's as if they are doing the inversion of your trickle charger. Yeah, they're putting the clamps on, and it's going, and it's sucking the energy out of you
Wow.
rather than
That's
putting
so
the energy
important.
into you. Yeah.
That's
So
so
what was
important. And let me just interject. That's so important for people to know, especially if they're just having an awakening and they have a lot of questions and they don't know what to ask or where to go to find the answers. And then they reach out, and God bless them. They're reaching out in a good way, but they don't have the discernment yet of what's pulling them down and
yes.
what can take them to the becoming of who they truly are. And so, but that's fine. It's part of the process of learning. It's just that, they're, God bless them. They really do want information, but the the way you go about it is what you already know instead of what you don't know.
Of course, of course. I mean, and it is very challenging for the human organism to rest in a place of I don't know.
Right.
And the more you know, the harder it is
Yeah.
to identify the places where you don't know.
Right.
The good news is, as one of my former teachers used to say, God loves a beginner.
That's right.
Okay to not know.
Yeah. Whew, the beginner mind is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a huge challenge because we naturally are going to be hearing other people. We're going to be listening to other people, and this happens a lot. If you don't know who you are, then you're going to be around other people, and either you admire them, which is great. I mean, by all means, admire and appreciate other people, and or you don't like them, you judge them, you criticize them. But in each case, there's a part of you that doesn't know who you are.
Right.
Let's say, is that me? Am I that? Am I that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying, am I that I am? Instead of looking to the divine and saying, no, I am that I am.
Right.
I'm magnificent. I am cherished. I am passionate. I am enough for God. I am brilliant. I am whatever your particular I ams are. Those are, I mean, I bake a lot of bread, so this analogy works for me. That's the bread loaf of which you are a dinner roll. So make sure you're looking at the right bread loaf when
That's
you say,
right.
I am that
That's
I
right.
am. Because you're going to have those qualities and characteristics right there.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I love that you brought up gossip, because I feel that that is one of the most damaging things. Is when you get together with people that you know in your circle, especially when you're moving, into a higher vibration, you tend to still gather with the people that you know and familiar with, because a lot of people don't realize they need to move on from a lot of friendships. So
Yep.
the gossiping that used to give you energy, you've got to look at what kind of energy it gave you. And
Well,
you go
yeah,
home with that.
yes.
And that could create a psychic drain in you.
And if I can take that a step further, we
Right.
have we have a list. We love our checklists in Geotran. We just adore our checklists. And one of them is called Misuses of the Tongue, Tribes of Source. And
Wow.
each of these different ways to misuse your creative ability to speak things into existence,
Right.
when you misuse it, it opens the door to different groups of negative energies.
Mm,
I mean, gossip opens the door to demons. Demons are incorrect spiritual energies.
right.
And then are you able to close that again? Sometimes you
Exactly.
can, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you just need to be cleared or
Sometimes
learn how to clear
shut
yourself.
up.
Right, right. And stop talking. Sometimes I swear.
Me too.
And when I do, I immediately say, God, forgive me.
At least you're catching it.
I knew what I was doing. I had to do it. I'm so sorry. I'm in the 3D world. Okay, forgive me.
And that's what repentance is about. You're turning back to the divine. You're turning back to your divine blueprint.
Yeah, I have to. Otherwise, it gets painful in my body. I can't
Yeah.
live any other way.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up that question of pain because two things. One is, at least in our perspective in Geotran, when you have pain, it has taken out some part of your truth. And when you have fear, it has taken out some part of your light. Now, the glory of God is intelligence, and intelligence is truth and light. So it's taking out part of your intelligence. I'm not talking about IQ. Do you understand? I'm saying
Right.
that
Divine intelligence.
spiritual or energy intelligence, that
Right.
field. And one of the things that we really notice is that when these neuroconnectors specifically for your psychic energy, get corroded or get these crystalline formations, pain is one of the results because it's your soul and your spirit saying, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Or
It's
please stop it so we can start to thrive instead of be depleted.
right, right. It's
Uh,
an overload of toxicity.
yes.
And that creates acidic conditions in the body, the same way. All right, I need to say this very carefully because people think I'm judging what they eat, and really I'm not. But we know about the advantages of a pH neutral diet, and we know that the things that make more acidity in the body for everybody:
Yeah.
coffee, sugar, and red meat. Now,
Yeah.
I don't personally care what you eat. I really
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. That's not
But
the point.
but I'm saying the same thing is happening on the energy level. Is
Uh-huh.
that you end up with these acidic conditions
Yeah.
because you've been eating a lot of boiled sweeties or you've been hanging out with a lot of gossipy people.
Yeah.
You see the connection here?
Yes, exactly. And I just want to point to, because we're living in the time of COVID, where, there's still a lot of craziness going on about vaccinating, not vaccinating, and just, the information going around and what you do with that. When you get into fear, you gossip. When you get into fear and worry and doubt, you throw darts at other things and people instead of just taking in the information and feeling it and see what is really right for you. There's nobody going to coerce you. You have to choose for yourself and be your sovereign self. So gossip is same as discussing, these things, but throwing darts at stuff is not the answer. You have got to be more discerning on your own and can say, instead of saying, well, this one said that because this, you could just say, look, I'm not sure about that for me. And you just take it right here and be quiet with it.
And every time and people, I'm constantly bombarded by information because, I network with people. And when I hear anything, especially both in the area of interest that you and I both share that I'm not going to talk about right now, but also to do with anything to do with COVID. The first thing I ask is what percent is this information true, complete, and accurate?
Oh, well, that's an elevated question.
Because that actually gives you a basis
It
for.
does, but it's a very elevated question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about muscle testing and is that the implicit okay, let me back up a little bit. Okay. One of the things I really love about muscle testing is when you are muscle testing, and I do this all the time for myself, for other people, it's part of my work, blah, 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 is that what you're really testing is the psychic energy.
Yeah.
When I describe it to new students, I say, look, okay, there's a little bit more energy goes through your arm and it's easy for your arm to stay up, or a little less energy goes through your arm and your arm goes down, and that's a no. It's a stress response. But really what we're measuring is in the concept, the direction, the thought, the feeling, the belief, the piece of information. Is there more psychic energy for you?
Uh-huh.
Now, I may describe it as, does this line you up with your divine blueprint better? Same thing, same concept. But really, it's about the psychic energy. Is there more energy there?
Yeah.
Positive, beneficial sort.
Right. Well, if it takes you out of pain in one moment, there's more. So do you have a tool that you use? I could teach one, but I'd like to, for you, I think you have one too.
A tool for what?
Where you can teach people how to do it on their own, with their own.
Oh, yeah, I teach people.
So you don't have two people.
Right, absolutely. So there are a couple of ways that I use and that I teach. The very simplest, most accurate for beginners is the sway test. So you're standing up very tall and you put the food in front of you, or you ask the question, or you just start with something really simple that you know the answer to, like, my name is Jeremiah. And you fall backwards because, in fact, it is not. So a yes is forward, a no is back.
Gotcha.
I learned this one to start with. I don't know how well you can see my hands.
Yeah.
I don't like that one. I like one-handed. One-handed works really well for me. So this is the one that I most commonly teach. Well, there's two that I teach really commonly now that we're doing a lot of our classes by Zoom. Okay, there's this one where you just hold out your hand with your hand up a little bit. Hold out your arm with your hand up a
I
little bit.
can't see what you're doing.
I know. Here, let me move it back a bit.
There you go.
Better? Okay. Whoa, let me let me really get within the frame.
There
Can
you
you
go.
see it now? Okay. You just press on your wrist. Okay, my name is Kyre. My name is Shayna.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Super easy. And on the Zoom, in the Zoom context, very helpful because you can really see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's a really super easy one. And then I like this one. I've got my pad of the thumb over the middle finger of my dominant hand. And if you don't know what your dominant hand is, ask what your dominant hand is for this.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because there are people who are truly ambidextrous.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it doesn't really matter which hand you use as long as you're consistent. And then I have people repeat after me. So repeat after me, Shane. I
Okay.
now set my intention
I now set my intention
that when I reach a yes answer,
that when I reach a yes answer,
my finger springs open like this.
my finger springs open like this.
Yep.
Okay.
See? You're good to go. Just practice, practice, practice. And
Okay.
oh, for the love of the little baby Jesus, please practice yes no questions that are not important.
Yeah, to gain your confidence in it. Yeah, absolutely.
You are training your body
Yeah.
to a yes no answer out of your own body intelligence, yeah, out of the field.
Yeah.
I will always remember how I was doing some classes and taught this particular method to somebody, and I didn't see her for a couple of months, and she came along to one of the group healings, and I said, "Oh, how have you been? I haven't seen you. What have you been up to?" He says, "Well, it's muscle tested that I should go to Texas and get back together with my high school sweetheart." I said, "Did the part that I said about only using this for unimportant questions for the first bit, did that just like not register?" Seriously, people, if you've got a big question and you're not 100% comfortable with your muscle testing, you ask somebody like me or Shayna or somebody who is detached from the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
What happened with that situation?
it didn't work. I mean, big surprise.
He came back.
It's like, okay. I hope she learned a valuable lesson there about the limits of muscle testing.
I hope so. And sometimes we have to do that to ourselves just to get confidence in what we're doing and to learn discernment if you self-reflect on it. If you don't self-reflect on it, then forget it. You're not going to do it. But please self-reflect on little things and big things to make sure you're following your divinity and your higher vibration.
Exactly.
And again, that is mastering the moment. Yes. You're in the moment. You can't do it in the future. You can't do it in the past. You have to be
especially true of muscle testing.
Yes.
Muscle testing is in the now.
Yes.
Right? So sometimes the very best, and it's always dependent on the question, obviously. So sometimes the very best question is, what's my best question for right now?
Well, that's not that's not a yes, no question. So
no, but then you listen, you see, and you say,
how
many questions are there? 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's 4 questions. Okay, and the first one is about health, wealth, relationships, self-expression. My first question is about self-expression. By the way, I'm snapping my fingers because that is the way I actually muscle test myself.
Oh, okay.
When I snap my fingers, like here, like I just showed you, you've spring-loaded that middle finger. Do you have enough strength? Do you have enough psychic energy for that to spring open, right? Or are you a little stuck? Do you have less psychic energy? Same thing here. This is a little stuck. This is a no.
Yeah, yeah, because
All right, so okay, what questions do you have for me right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, and the first one is something to do with health, wealth, relationship, self-expression. Okay, so there's a question about self-expression. What's that about? Well, I know what my self-expression is. So it's going to be about geotran, knitting, baking bread, writing, or going to France. It's about going to France. All right, good. There's a question about going to France. You see what I'm saying is that once you're comfortable with the muscle testing, you can use it in increasingly sophisticated ways.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for more life-changing questions and answers.
Yes.
Yes.
The
So
only
I have another way of muscle testing that's similar to your snap. So I learned it like this, where you rub the fingers together and you say very simply, I'm a girl. And then you feel what it feels like. And then you go, I'm a boy. And you feel what it feels like. Obviously, the boy answer for me would be the wrong answer, the no.
yeah.
And so the feeling, yeah, you get the feeling that it's stickier, it's sloggier when you answer in the no. Yeah,
Absolutely. So
yeah,
as long as you are listening, yeah, as long as you're asking good questions and listening and practicing, yeah, you will very rapidly, anybody can very rapidly learn how to muscle test accurately for themselves.
yeah.
When I was doing classes in person, I would send my people out to the nearest Chinese restaurant or supermarket.
Oh, fun.
Okay, how many things do you need from this place? One, two, three, four, five. Oh, you need five. Okay, and the first one is something to eat, something to drink, or Chinese restaurants, even better, because you've got something this size as a menu, right? So you go, okay,
Right?
it's on this page. It's on this page. It's on this page. It's on page 4. Okay. It's on this side. It's on this. Oh, it's in the right hand column. And then you, with your other hand, you just run a finger down that column until you get a yes.
Right. And then
Pivot. Apparently, I'm eating liver and garlic sauce tonight.
well, yeah, that's so true. I mean, I have it a different way where I go, I open a menu and the first thing my eyes go to, that's the thing I'm going to eat.
Same thing. Same
I
thing.
don't know why, right?
But
But it
let me
just,
tell you a story about that, though.
okay, tell me.
Okay, I was teaching when I was living in California, and Dorothy came, and we taught a class together. And she wanted to take me out to dinner. She said, "What's your favorite restaurant in this area?" And I said, "Oh, I know this really nice place called Windows on the Water. It's up in Morro Bay, and it's on the second floor. So you look across the bay. It's lovely."
Beautiful.
And we had a very, very nice waiter, and it's a small menu, and I know it well. So I was just giving her room to test for what she wanted. I knew what I wanted, and she said, "I don't get it." I said, "What is it, Dorothy?" She says, "They're telling me to have duck. I don't like duck. I never order duck." And I said, "Well, the duck here is really, really good. So tell you what, I'll order something that you also like. And if you don't like the duck, we'll swap."
Uh-huh.
Swap? I didn't get a look in. She went into that thing like it was the best thing since creation. And she said, "No, I
Wow.
can honestly say that I have ordered and eaten and enjoyed duck."
Wow.
He knew somewhere in the field that there
Right.
was an experience there that was actually beneficial for her. That
Right.
her mind, she had a belief that she didn't like duck.
Right. So they wanted her to change her mind and have a new perspective.
Well, when we're going for obedience, meaning alignment with your divine blueprint,
Uh-huh.
it automatically takes you to a higher place
Yeah.
than the soul level. It automatically takes you to a higher place than where you think, feel, believe, and desire.
Right. So it
And
may not be just a new perspective. It may be something energetically good. It may be something that is better for her body in that moment.
in that
She may
moment,
never eat it again, but in that moment, it was the right food and it would digest well and it would go through her body well. It would serve her well energetically. Yeah,
right, right, exactly. The field is so much bigger than our little minds normally
that's bigger.
pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I told you that story the other day that I was also, this was years ago, and I was living in San Luis Obispo. And I said, "Okay, God, what are we doing today?" You know? And they said, "We want you to go to the post office." I said, "Well, wait, what, now?" "Yeah, I want you to go to the post office right now." I said, well, I was planning to go to the post office at 3 o'clock. And you know what the guides are like. They look at you. Now, I'm obedient. It's fine. I just was curious. I got to the post office, and a woman I had been trying to contact for 3 weeks by email and phone was in the next counter over.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Totally. That happened to me yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, yesterday I was just relaxing after eating lunch, and then all of a sudden I hear, "Get up and go take your walk."
Yep,
I'm
there you
like,
go.
"Okay, I go take my walk." So my neighbor, who I just met, and we just really liked each other, but haven't seen her in 3 or 4 weeks, and thought, "Oh, maybe, is she out of town? Is she in what?" She
There
was
you go.
she was right there outside the door, and I finally got to, connect with her and ask her
Yeah.
all those questions I was wondering about.
Well,
Love
your
it.
divine blueprint is going to take you places that you don't know in your mind. And obedience will do that. Obedience is like a treasure hunt. Yeah. It's about the spiritual geography you traverse.
Yeah,
So you hear, go to the post office. Okay, you run into somebody that you need to speak to about something.
right.
Piece of obedience may seem completely unconnected, but it
Yeah,
takes you to the next place where you can learn something else, or you can ask a better question, and then that takes you to the next place, and to the next place, and to the next place. Obedience is, and the other great thing about obedience, if you have the kind of mind I do, that goes over things over and over again,
uh-huh.
positive or negative. Um, the lovely thing about obedience is that it lifts you out of that. So it's like, no, this I'm doing this because it is connecting me with my divine blueprint, and therefore, even though I don't see the end result, I
Yeah,
have faith, I have trust that the end result is going to be beneficial, and it's actually going to be easier and better than me deciding I can run my life better
yeah,
than divine can.
yeah, exactly.
And furthermore, I can run your life better too, which is what we call
Right,
being God better than God.
exactly. Because like the law of attraction would have you say, okay, just decide and manifest that you are going to meet your beloved when you go out Friday night, 7 o'clock to this particular place. And so you do that. And nobody's there, and nobody even taps on your shoulder, and nothing happens. But versus if you're just like, I'm just so tired, all I want to do is relax for the evening, and your divine says, go get dressed and look pretty and go to this place,
That's a very, very different instruction.
then what will happen is you will meet the person you're supposed to meet. You can discern after that, but you're supposed to meet that person.
Right. Who, as it so happens, has a first cousin visiting who is, but
In
you
the
have to get
place, in the
there
place you really want to live.
first. But if you didn't get up and go to that cafe at 7 p.m., then you weren't going to be there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a totally different structure, and it's a totally different vibration. And one keeps you stuck in a lower vibration, and the other keeps you moving into your highest vibration.
That's exactly it. It is absolutely moving you upwards. And even your just willingness to muscle test.
Can you turn off your bell?
I can't do it without actually muting you too, which is what I don't want to do. So I've
Oh, okay.
sent a message that will keep them quiet.
Oh, okay.
Down.
Don't say okay.
So uh, that just your intention and your willingness.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever the answer is, I'm going with it because I want to be in alignment with my divine blueprint, which I set up
Right.
before coming into this experience with divine. So
Right.
of course it's going to work out better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that circles back to what you said about living in the unknown,
Yes. Yes.
because
Yeah.
it takes all the fear away.
Yes.
from living in the unknown, because the more you do it and the more you see how it works out for you, sometimes you may not like it at first, but it's for the best, for the best, for the best. You continually self-reflect and see how you feel in that self-reflection, and then you discern,
Yeah.
this is working much better for me in my life. I wonder what would happen if I kept going. And
Right.
you'll see your vibration
And
continue to
if
raise.
you don't go down that hallway, you may never find that door,
That's right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I especially, I'm sure that you, as a woman, and other women listening to this talk that we're having, and probably men too, but especially women,
Yeah.
think about every relationship you've been in. Think about that process whereby maybe you got dumped and it was very painful at the time. How long did it take you to look back at that and say, you know what, God, I have faith that I am being looked after here. So this is okay. This is turning out all right. And then you get to a further point where it's like, oh, thank God I'm not going out with that person anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. I got the answer one time about relationships and meeting men specifically. We're saving you from the heartache of what it would be. And I
Well,
was like, but wait a second, it feels so good.
that initial whoopee, everything feels good. I mean, that's why we watch romance films, you know? But the last person I went out with, I did get dumped, and I got dumped quite painfully.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, it took me a good week, maybe 3, to finally ask the right question.
Right.
And the right question was, okay, guides, did you engineer this?
Yeah.
What was this about? Don't never ask a why question. Why questions are
Yeah.
assigned. What was this about? What do you want me to know? What is it about the particular way this happened?
Right.
That
What am I learning from this?
And they said we wanted to make sure there was no chance of you going back to this person.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, I get that. Thank you.
Right.
That's actually really helpful.
Yes, right. It's like you've already learned that lesson.
Been there, done
You
that.
don't
You do
need to repeat
not have
it.
to recirculate this one.
Right. Right. And when I ask, I'm not going to go there.
Let's not. Is it obedient to talk about that right now? No. But let's go back to our psychic energy thing a bit, because one of the things that was so fascinating about this conference call that we were having in the Geotrain group was that the person who was being worked on, who's a very bright, lively, intelligent woman, and really good at Geotran, and she has a successful life, and yet her car battery was being drained. And so, of course, we ask person, place, or thing. How many things do we need to identify here? Now, normally when somebody's contaminated, it's going to be a person or a thing, right? So it could be somebody else's envy, coveting, craving, jealousy. It could be the church of disappointment. It could, groups too. And what surprised me is that both for this gal and for most of the people I've worked on, specifically on this topic, it's been places. Places. In her case, it
Interesting.
was the park where she walks her dog.
Oh, right. Wow.
Place had soaked up a certain signature energy. Now, in this particular case, it was God omission. Is what we eventually worked out after 24 of us flailing around trying to find the exactly right signature for this place. I've worked with people where the signature is lost
Uh-huh.
or laggard. Yeah, people who can't keep up, who aren't learning the new things, or it could be any negative signature, it could be any below the line small g God.
Uh-huh.
But it seems to be often attached to places.
Uh-huh.
I worked on somebody the other day, it was her entire zip code.
Wow.
There's something about that zip code. Never had that come up in clearing,
That's
ever.
amazing.
So I think that as we learn more discernment, even the questions we ask about the discernment become more sophisticated.
Absolutely. And that's the key, having the right questions to ask. Um,
Absolutely.
I remember when I lived in Ashland, I told you this story, that I'll just record it. Uh, I would go for a walk in Lithia Park. And Lithia Park is a small version of the park that was designed by the same gentleman who designed Golden Gate Park, which is this
Oh, right.
enormous, beautiful park. Well, our Lithia Park is just like that. And meaning that it is gorgeous and it's just unique in its structure. And every time I would walk in there, I'd have this overwhelming feeling of, I love this park. I just
Mm,
love this park. And I get farther down and I'd still be saying, there was no area that went counter to, I just
right.
love this park. And and then finally, after living there about 6 months, I went in one day and I get this feeling again, and I'm realizing it, and I asked, I didn't ask anything, it just came to me. You're realizing all of the love that everyone feels when they come through this park.
Right.
So you're realizing love, period. Because people are saying, I love this park just like you do. It resonates out as love in the park.
Yes.
And so I was walking through, as I was walking through, was just love, love, and more love. And I was in bliss every time I leave the park.
Right.
So you can go that way too with,
Absolutely. And that can, and in everything you do, wandering around, you can amplify, magnify, intensify, and glorify
yeah.
the positive aspects of the place or the situation that you're working through.
Yeah.
So
So I guess what I'm getting and what we're saying right now is that if you're in the moment and if you realize you're in the moment and you feel what you're feeling in the moment, either am I getting dragged down or feeling down or starting to have weird thoughts,
mhm,
or the opposite, am I feeling love, elevated, joyful, blissful? You ask and you get where you are, and whether or not the where you are is supporting you or not.
yes, yes, absolutely. And then, of course, because I'm a Geotran person, this is how we work. Of course, we actually have clearings for this too. So as I've been working with people these last couple of weeks on this specific issue, and on myself, I may add,
Oh, nice.
I'm no by no means immune.
Oh, me too.
About that, isn't it? You'd think, but there you go.
Last couple of weeks have been really important for clearing.
Is that first we identify the signature, right? So we say, okay, what is it? Firstly, we identify the person, place, or thing,
Yeah.
right? Okay, what's the signature here? One person I was working on, it was her family as a whole, and their signature was rejection or something. I don't remember exactly, but it would have been something like that. And then we use what's called glory gems to polish up and reconnect those neural connectors between the physical self and the glorified body, and between the human self and the Divine Mother. So this is very like, I go and borrow the trickle charger from my buddy Eric, and you know, I know how to connect the thingies up, but I let him do it because he's better at it.
Right.
I don't good at everything. It's like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Point is that this is the equivalent of connecting up that trickle charger, but making sure that the points are clear
Right.
before you do that. The neural connectors are exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
And one of the fascinating things about this is that most Geotran is about points, numbers, and geometries. That's the basis of it. It's a coding language. It's the language of all possibilities. We use it to clear your computers and to install new software so that you can have new output. And it's a very tight analogy with how computers work,
That's sweet.
which is not surprising because humans created computers in their own image.
All right.
uh, but one of the things I love about these glory gems is it's by intention. It's you're just picturing it in the field that you
Uh-huh.
are cleaning up and reconnecting all. We're not going to specify how many there are, just all
Right.
neuroconnectors between your body, physical body, and the glorified body. Whoop, ooh, felt that one. And between you as a human and the mother of us all. Whoa, you see? And
Nice.
it's like having the right question. You know,
Uh-huh. It is.
it's something you need to be taught, but on the other hand, once you know it in the field, it's like you can just turn that light switch on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't actually have to know exactly how electricity works. I mean, I do sort of know, at a high school level education sort of way.
Yeah.
But I do know that if I don't turn the light switch, the lights don't come on. It doesn't matter how much I look at the light bulb saying, let there be light. I still have to turn on the switch. And that's why I love one of the things I love about Geotran is that
Uh,
got a lot of switches.
yeah. 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 Very good.
Anybody can learn how to do it.
Wow.
It's
Beautiful.
not a matter of having that kind of in, anybody can learn to be intuitive. And I know this because I had no usable intuition before I started using Geotran. But what I'm saying is learning Geotran does not depend on you actually having an innate talent.
But it could grow it.
Oh, it will certainly grow from
Yeah.
it. Yeah. But like Dorothy has always talked to God, always listened in the field really, really well. She's always been a medical intuitive. I am none of those things, or was none of those things.
Uh-huh.
The most left brain person you could possibly imagine. I I trained as an architect for God's sake, you know.
Oh.
Um, but with with
And
repeated
written
application of
7 books.
with repeated
Oh.
application of Geotran, I was able to open up those doors. And now this is what I
God
do.
bless Geotran and your willingness to be there.
Well, that's the thing. You have to show up like anything else.
That's right.
Show up. You have to be willing to learn. You have to retain at least some of it.
Right, right, right.
But it's
Wow, Kyre, this has been so informative. I really appreciate your time. And so, do you have one overall closing you'd like to offer?
yeah. There are two things I'd like to say, and one is simply pragmatic, right? And
Okay.
it's this: if you find that spending time with a person or in a particular place or with a particular group leaves you tired consistently, do not spend more than 10 minutes with that person, place, or thing. Have a timer on your watch that goes off at 9 minutes. And so when your sister in law calls you and you think, oh, God, not again, the alarm's going to go off at 9 minutes. And you're going to say, sorry, got to go.
Time to go. I got an appointment.
No
Yeah.
reasons, no excuses, just got to go.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing is this we are actually meant to thrive. We are designed to thrive. We are designed to be in alignment with the God of our being. And the way we get there is by throwing out contaminations and integrating for our goals. And our goals can be anything. It doesn't matter. I mean, I may want a chateau in France. You may not. That's great. On the other hand, you may actually enjoy eating shrimp, which I am allergic to. You know? So the to the best and biggest question to ask, circling back around to that question thing, is am I 100% God in body right now? Is my point up pyramid and my point down pyramid, are they completely in alignment so they can slide together, form that Star of David or the star tetrahedron if you prefer, multidimensionally, and then you are walking around with God in you and you in God, and that's when the miracles occur.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's very, very beautiful. So please heed that warning. 2 simple steps that you can do to really empower yourself to be happy and raise your vibration and stay in the moment. Yeah. Thank you, Kyre. It's been absolutely adorably wonderful as always.
My pleasure.
Bye, everybody.